Currently 34. Next news at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Secure Retirement Radio with host Raj Shah. Sunday mornings at 7 on AM 560, The Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
As we all wait at home for the coronavirus shutdown to end, there are still many local businesses that are open and trying to survive during this difficult time. If you can, now is the time to support these businesses. We here at AM 560 have created a directory of local businesses that are open and ready to do business with you. Go to 560theanswer.com and click on the Shop Local banner on the top of the homepage. There you'll find a list of all kinds of businesses that are open, including some that are offering special deals right now. And if you own or run a business that's open and operating, we want to help you get the word out.
Yes, please.
So go to 560theanswer.com/open for business. That's all one word, open for business. 560theanswer.com/open for business. Fill out the brief form and we'll add you to our directory. It's totally free, no catch. Go to 560theanswer.com/open for business. Yes, which hopefully we all will be soon. But in the meantime, for those that are, we want to do everything we can to help connect you to customers and others in the business community that are making their way. Attorney General Barr sat down for an extended interview with Laura Ingraham, in which he went well beyond his professional responsibilities as the Attorney General, talking about geopolitical threats and silver linings that could come out of the pandemic response, what we understand to be true. Let's start with those silver linings. Attorney General Barr had this to say.
One is to once again appreciate the importance of borders and controlling who is coming into the country. I felt for a long time, as much as people talk about global warming, that the real threat to human beings are microbes and being able to control disease, and that starts with controlling your border. So I think people will be more attuned to more protective measures, but also the supply chain issue. The idea that much of what we need to protect the health of the American people is in the control of foreign governments who can interdict it and say we're not shipping stuff to the United States when everyone else in the world wants it during a pandemic was a crazy situation to get into. Happened before this administration, and the president's trying to deal with it.
Barr also said something that I think has become abundantly clear in the face of this pandemic.
Who's the bigger threat to America's election security, Russia or China?
In my opinion, it's China. And not just to the election process, but I think across the board, there's simply no comparison. China is a very serious threat to the United States, geopolitically, economically, militarily, and a threat to the integrity of our institutions, given their ability to influence things.
Including higher education, as we've discussed. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Barbara Boland. She is a foreign policy and national security reporter for the American Conservative and author of Patton Uncovered. I'll have to check that out. Barbara Boland, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning. So against the backdrop of what Attorney General Barr had to say about China, you write about a funding request that's been submitted by senior military leaders for more than even the president has requested of Congress, and it's specifically with an eye towards China.
Yes, they're looking at quite an extensive range of options in the Indo-Pacific Command.
And this is all in the area of military armaments. But to describe any concerns you may have or concerns that you think should be raised about the funding request.
Well, this is over and above. So the president had already requested one of the largest military budget requests ever, period, without it being a wartime request. And we also have these other funding requests because of the coronavirus So this request, however, was tucked into the NDAA. So every year Congress reauthorizes a military spending package. And in that bill, this passed in 2020, they put language in that asked the senior commander in the Pacific, Admiral Davidson, to look at China and defending the U.S. against China and what additional things might be needed, and for him to directly tell them what it was instead of going through the Pentagon. And that's actually a pretty rare request, since usually the DoD puts that package together themselves.
Well, break down
So
the
what
ask. Like what exactly are they asking for? High
So
frequency
they're
radar
asking
systems?
for
What?
a $1.6 billion to defend around Guam, for instance. They're also asking for $1 billion for long-range weapons. They want $1 billion over 6 years to integrate the Navy and the Air Force's long-range weapons together, and then $185 million for high-frequency radar and Palau, $1 billion for a homemade defense radar in Hawaii to defend against ballistic. So there's all this military spending, and this is coming, as we're still dealing with coronavirus, and we're still talking about that we're going to have to pass another spending bill to take care of all these people who are without jobs and whose businesses are suffering right now.
Well, it could be worse. They could be asking for funding to keep Guam afloat per Hank Johnson, who's worried that it may capsize. So it could always be worse. Here's the thing about this, though, and maybe the $20 billion kicker in addition to the $750 billion that's a part of the defense, the DoD budget request generally. Maybe that is unnecessary, but as John Yu, law professor from Berkeley, wrote in National Review, there is a desire to address Chinese incursions into American life in so many respects, as Attorney General Barr was talking about, as a lot of people are talking about, with their essential control of global organizations like the World Health Organization, their veto power on the National Security Council, so the UN is functionally vestigial with respect to dealing with China piracy, China aggression in the South China Sea, China espionage, corporate espionage. We got a lot of problems with the, I don't want to go full Festivus on you, but we got a lot of problems with the Chinese communists here. And we need to be thinking strategically about how to deal with them. It's not just going to be a military response, but some of the other things, like, for example, Wu has suggested freezing assets, seizing assets, vetting Chinese nationals who want to attend colleges, universities in this country. If they have ties to the Communist Party, maybe they're prohibited from being here. Maybe higher education is prohibited from taking money from Chinese communist interests. That may require in part a military buildup to dissuade China from responding militarily to some things that we may consider in terms of an effort to punish them and teach them some manners.
Yeah, and I would say that we need to start thinking this the way that China does about war, because China themselves has been discussing for years other ways that they can succeed against the U.S. without having the best military, which included things like, they have our entire supply chain, right? Like, and they have 90%, they produce 90% of our pharmaceuticals. Like, these are the things we need to start thinking about. We can't always look at it in the traditional, if we have the best weapon systems, we're necessarily going to win, because that's not going to help us in this particular scenario that we're in now.
Right. No question. And as we've talked about on this show, too, the Confucius Institutes they've set up to compromise, to collaborate, and ultimately compromise researchers individually as well as research institutions in this country. I mean, they're operating on a number of fronts, and it seems like we're just getting our legs underneath us to appreciate the holistic threat that China poses to a free society as they pursue global hegemony.
Yeah, and I think it was also maybe the first time that people have actually spoken about it and not been sort of laughed out of the room. Although when Trump the other day said, hey, maybe we shouldn't be sending money to the WHO, you saw how the press pretty much lost it. I mean, they still don't think that that's something that you can say in polite society, I suppose. But the WHO has been getting a lot of funding from China and has been acting in ways that's not helpful for the global pandemic. So, these things do need to be looked at and talked about honestly.
Well, do you think since China is such a threat that they did this on purpose? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but if they wanted to bring down America and the world, they certainly did.
Yeah, but I think that there's no evidence that they did it on purpose per se, and I also think that they also hurt themselves, although I'm not sure that a communist country cares that much about that. Mm-hmm. Especially because of the way this is all rolling out, a lot of countries besides just the U.S. are rethinking their ties to China. This is really causing every country to shut down and look inwards and question a lot of the globalization that we've seen.
Well, you heard what
over
Japan did this morning. Japan paid companies $1 billion to get out, to move their factories out of China.
Uh-oh.
Hello?
It's DEFCON 1 over there. You all right? Do we need to
Yeah.
scram a tactical unit? Okay. Going back to what else we can do with China, what about being more aggressive in supporting Taiwan? Since China and the WHO, as an example of an institution it essentially controls, seem to be particularly prickly when it comes to pumping up Taiwan.
Well, I think we are pretty good about supporting Taiwan. We've also been supporting Hong Kong, at least that's traditionally the U.S.'s position. But I think, again, this is going to require some creative solutions because the way that this has challenged us is not the way that we usually prepare for like a traditional enemy. So if we are thinking about this, we probably can't think about it in terms of traditional warfare. We have to look at other avenues. However, Taiwan wasn't particularly targeted actually by the WHO too. So, Japan's been pushing back on a lot of that. I think that we also need to look at our regional partners like Japan and take a look at how they're responding and how they're dealing with China because they have more experience and more sort of on the ground knowledge than we do in some ways.
Makes sense. She is Barbara Boland, foreign policy and national security reporter for the American Conservative and author of Patton Uncovered. Barbara, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
In business today, being ready is more challenging than ever. As you work to keep your doors open and employees and customers protected, Cintas is here to help. Our trucks can deliver essential supplies like soap, microfiber towels, disposable gloves, paper towels, toilet tissue, and safety glasses. We can even sanitize your restrooms. We'll serve you with the speed and dedication you need. Learn how Cintas can help your business stay ready at Cintas.com.
If you're anxious and stressed, it affects your immune system. And right now, the only thing we can do to take care of ourselves right now, excuse me, Funky, is to take Balance of Nature because it helps boost your immune system. Why? Because admit it, you're not getting enough fruits and veggies on your own. And that's where Balance of Nature comes in. I just took mine. I break open the 6 capsules every day in warm water. And with that, I'm getting 10 servings of 31 different fruits and veggies. So take charge of your health.